Good morning from Lake Chapala. We have the rainy season right now, and it's kind of cooler than it was all winter, but it's pleasant. In this video, I will discuss buying a lot or rehabbing an existing house and some other tips. First, let me clarify a big myth. It is not true that you have to have a trust to buy any property or any piece of land in Mexico. That is only the case in the zone close to the border and I think 30 or 50 miles along the coast. That's when you need a trust. And that's also not a big thing. So don't let that stop you. If you are new to Mexico and your first project is to build a house, I must say, then you are braver than I am. Because there's so much to learn about the area and about how things work. But if you want to do that and you look at land or lots, first of all, you will be probably surprised, as I was, that the lots are very small. So if you look at land along the lake, and there are wonderful pieces available, pretty expensive compared to land in Arizona, for example, where I'm from. But be careful, as stunning the view might be. Think of floods, as we have been just reminded of in Texas of this tragedy. Um, Imagine it could raise or it could totally dry out, and then you look at an unpleasant view. So it doesn't have to be necessarily directly on the lake to have a positive experience. So drive around, look at everything, and then also consider if it rains, it easily turns into a little flash flood and it comes down the streets. So make sure where you are, where the water flow will go. In minutes, it can be disastrous. Another reason why I prefer Chapala to compared to Ajijic, because in Ajijic they have Venice there if it rains. Chapala has a better flow. Anyway, so make sure you look at that. If you want to build at a hill, that's also very tempting, but you have to make sure the ground is stable, because we did have one big mudslide here in Ajijic, or close to Ajijic. So those are the things when you look at lots. As I said, starting out with building a house, my compliment. But if you are looking for a builder or an architect, what I do always is walk the neighborhoods and don't be shy. Ring the doorbell of a house you really like that seems to be new construction and say, who was your architect? Who's your builder? And then you hear the pro and cons, and then you can talk to those builders and see if you're on the same page and if you like each other. And don't start with the architect necessarily, because sometimes they live in a dream world that is just not practical. Okay, that's building. I love to build, don't get me wrong, but I decided to buy an existing house and rehab it and turn it into what I really want. And what I usually do is buy the ugly ducklings or buy properties that have been on the market for a while. I would take an inspector with me, because you can do that up front. It's not like in America where you first make an offer and then you get, if it's accepted, an inspector and all that. It's the opposite. So take an inspector. Some of them are American trained, and see what the status of the house really is. I must say, my inspector was American trained and very nice. And in his report, he only listed the things that I had seen anyway myself. Granted, I'm a realtor and I'm an engineer, so I see things. But still, he totally missed the huge plumbing problem. I mean, it should have been a hint that my roof had so many pipes It looked like sauerkraut. But anyway, um, so I picked a house that was on the market for 3 years. And of course, I was very suspicious and mistrusting and thought, why is that? It looks pretty nice to me. The main reason was that the casita behind the house was landlocked, meaning you had to go through the house to get to the casita, which was fine for the former owner because they were a huge family, so it didn't matter. But for me, I thought, big deal. I just sacrificed a sliver of my bedroom to make a hallway from the big garage to the courtyard to the casita. Problem solved. Then the taxi driver that drove me to the appointment with the realtor to see the house, and the realtor was late, and the taxi driver said, "Would you like to see the house?" And I said, "Well, I don't have a key." He said, "I do. I'm the maintenance manager for this compound." So I got his perspective too. So I bought the house. Closing was very easy. I bought it owner finance, something that all the realtors told me, we don't do that in Mexico. It's up to you. It's negotiation skills. You have to show the seller the benefit of how much more money he makes when he owner finances you. Or if you default, even better for him or her, she keeps the down payment and starts from scratch. That's how I usually buy houses. Anyway, so closing was no problem. And the first floor looked pretty good. So I thought I can move in right away, which I did. My furniture were still in Arizona, stored at my friend's ranch in Tucson. So I bought a chaise longue at an antique store, and that's how I camped out until I got my things. And the floor was nice. All the windows were done in the house, which was a major point for my purchasing it because that's a big expense. And so the kitchen looked good to me, but what I didn't do at the walkthrough was I did not open all the cabinets. Everybody was in a hurry a little bit. Anyway, when I did open the cabinets, I had the whole door in my hand because the hinges and all the frame inside the cabinet was totally eaten by termites. And I didn't expect that in my budget. But again, the taxi driver referred me to a good carpenter, and in 4 days, I had a brand new framed kitchen. We used the face doors, but other than that, it was framed in new. And later on, I'll show you pictures how that went. As I said, 4 days, and it looked great. So then I asked about plumbing because there wasn't really hot water consistently. I thought can't be a big thing. I had bought instant water heaters because we had them 50 years ago in Austria and they worked fine. Not so in Mexico because the water pressure is so uneven that it doesn't kick in. So I had to buy a pressure tank too, which is another story. But anyway, so the carpenter referred me to his cousin, the tile maker or the tiling person. And that is called the primo effect. Primo is the Mexican word for cousin. And everybody has a cousin in the trade. And you will never hear, no, we can't do that. You better hire somebody else. They all say, oh, yeah, that's not complicated. Yep, that's easy. I can do that. It took me 5 different plumbers to find out why I can't get hot water. So I would normally recommend start with the plumbing when you are rehabbing, but that is not so easy because you only know what's wrong when you lived in the house already a while. For example, on the second floor, I had to rip off the kitchen counters and rip open the walls that were freshly painted to repair the pipes. So there are some surprises, but still, you end up getting exactly what you want. And I think that's worth it. And it's kind of exciting. I'm used to it. I have done it many times. So I and my dogs, we are sleeping in the rubble, so to speak. Okay, let me switch to show you some pictures. And then at the end, I also would like you to tell me, what do you want to see next? Because I'm shooting here a little bit blind. I don't know what questions you have for moving to Mexico, moving to the Lake Chapala area, which I specialize in. I was planning to interview the best mover that I have encountered, and my realtor, number five, I fired for. She is also an international attorney, and that helps very much going through the notary process and the banking, getting the funds over. It was so easy. I see on Facebook these horror stories. You just have to pick the right people, and you have to talk to them, and you have to compare reputation. Um, I so far, have never had a problem. I mean, the other realtors were also very nice, but they all said, no, owner financing, impossible. They, on my first offer, they didn't even present the offer because they talked to each other and said, no, they probably thought they don't get their commission. They get it out of the down payment, so that shouldn't be a problem. So later on, I ran into the owner in the dog park and said, you could have at least rejected my offer. And he said, I never got an offer. So you have to be on the ball. You have to check and recheck the progress, the status quo. It is very difficult to get it in writing or in an email or in a text. It's all done with WhatsApp voice or messaging voice, so you don't really have a track record unless you get fancy and print this all out. Okay, I'm switching now to some pictures. Yeah, so I wanted to I wanted to interview the mover, the attorney, the or another realtor too, and let me know, and a facilitator. There are several people who help you through immigration or getting the so-called RFC, which is basically a social security number for tax ID or tax ID for tax purposes, because you have to file taxes monthly here in Mexico. If you get rental income or whatever, it has to be done. You need an RFC. And the banks are getting a little bit stricter. Before, you only needed your passport, your utility bill, and yeah, that was pretty much it, your visa, to open up an account. There are still some banks who do it that way, but you also have to I would get it out of the way in the beginning. And I have a wonderful lady that does that. She did it for me. I'm the person who thinks I can do everything myself. When it comes to these kind of things, you really need to speak Spanish fluently, and they treat you a little bit nicer when you have a Spanish speaking person with you that helps you. And she's just a nice personality too, like me. Okay, that is, I think, what I wanted to talk about. I'm switching to some pictures now. And as I said, please put in the comments what you want to learn about. Okay? See you in my future cafe, which is called Have a Seat, very soon. Bye. Yep.